Hello there, it is me, Tarman, and welcome back. Today we are going to be painting this Mars Attacks Alien kit. Love the box art of this guy. Super fun. We're actually going to be painting him just like this. I love the paint scheme. This is one of my favorite paint schemes for the Martian from Mars Attacks. So let's get this guy. Alrighty, so here he is. I've already went ahead and painted him, put him together, primed him, and painted him black. So this is the figure. He is still removed. Pull that off because it's going to be separate. So the first thing we're really going to be doing with this guy is we're going to be highlighting everything with white. So let's go airbrush this guy some white and we can hop into the colors. Okay, so now I went ahead and done all my highlights. So now it's really time to start getting into all of the colors. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to paint this concrete just a gray. And we're going to be painting the Martian like a nice turquoise. And then his little oxygen pack or whatever he breathes, we're going to paint that a red. We're going to leave his head just like this. So really we're just going to be focusing on these three colors, and then when he's ready, then we're going to spray his gloves and boots a nice bright yellow. So let's hop into this gray first. Alrighty, so now we have that concrete nice and picked out. We're actually going to go in and paint him with a brush. So we're going to set this to the side. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to mix up a nice little turquoise to paint his spacesuit. So let's hop into that. Alrighty, so now we got that color looking pretty nice. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add a little bit more white to it, just to add in just a little bit more of a highlight to that, because I think it's a bit dark and I want it to be a little bit brighter. So let's add some white to that, and yeah, let's do it. Okay, so now we have that all nice and highlighted. Now we just got to wait for that to dry. So the next thing we'll do on this is just painting the boots and gloves that nice bright yellow. But before we do that, we're going to hop over to the oxygen pack and we're going to paint this a nice bright red. So let's hop into it. Okay, now we got that oxygen pack and that nice red. The next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to paint the head a nice tan. So let's paint the head tan. Now that face is nice and tan, so the next thing to do is to paint the yellow on the gloves and boots. So let's do that. Okay folks, so now we have everything painted the way that we want it to be. So here is the Martian. He is all picked out and ready to go. But before we really hop into him, we're gonna paint the base. So really the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna pick out his coat. I kind of want it to be a blue. So the blue we're gonna be painting his little coat in will be this. And then we'll probably pick out his shirt collar, and we'll just do that this white. If you can see that. Yeah. So we're gonna pick out these two things, and then yeah, then we'll move on from there. So let's do it. Now we have that picked out. We are going to go over the blue again with another blue, and the blue we're going to be using is this. So let's do it. Okay, guys, so now we have that picked out. It's still drying. You're probably wondering why the spine and his intestines are still white. That's because I'm going to make them glowing, so I'm just going to leave them white for right now. The next thing I'm going to do on this base is I'm going to paint the storm drain and the base to the lantern black. And the black I'm going to be using is this. So let's do it. Alrighty guys, now we got the black bits picked out. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put a wash over the sidewalk and the cheese grit, or the drain, and the flagpole base, light post base. I'm just going to be using this wash I mixed up, which if you're wondering what that wash is, I just mixed up 50% of this and 50% of this to get this wash. It just makes like an off black wash, so it's a little bit brown, and it just looks more natural in my opinion, but it works great for stuff like this if you want to look really grungy. So let's do that. Okay, so there it is so far. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry, and we're going to paint this face. If you guys have not seen me paint my faces before, this is going to be kind of a tutorial on how I do it. I am going to be leaving the skull all white because when I spray it, I want it to look like he just got zapped, so he's glowing. But really, I just use these primary colors right here for my faces. Just these four. I use this as the base, then I highlight with this, and then I'll mix a little bit of white with this to add an even brighter highlight if I want to. I normally use this for the eyes, and then since this one will have a pupil and an iris and stuff, I will pick a color for that, but I will normally just use black to put a little dot there for the eyes. So let's paint this guy. Okay, so there he is so far. So the next thing we got to do, we got to pick out his hair. And we're just going to give him some nice simple brown hair. And we're going to do his eyebrow too as well. His head's not glued on yet. So we're going to be using this. Let's do it. Okay, so here it is so far. He's coming along very nicely. We will be going in and airbrushing these like nice bright green, like he just got zapped. But I'm going to do that kind of at the end. So probably sometime through this video, you will see this turn from white to green. That's why. But before all that, I'm going to dry brush a nice gunmetal to this storm drain. And I'm going to be using this. Okay, so there we are. We got that nice little gunmetal on there, and he's done. So for right now, we're going to set this to the side, and we're going to be hopping over to the Martian. So here he is so far. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to pick out all the metal bits on his suit, his spacesuit. So I'm going to be painting this and parts of the hose and his little ray gun too. Just miss a bit, just a couple different parts on him. We're going to be painting that like a nice little metallic, and the metallic we're going to be using is this. And there we are so far. Look at that. Now he's coming together really nicely. The next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to be putting a little bit of a wash over all of the silvery bits. And the color we're going to be, or the wash we're going to be using is this. Let's do it. And there we are. Look at that. Now he's coming together very nicely, but I want his spacesuit to kind of pop just a little bit more. So we're going to actually be putting a color inside all the little grooves, and the color we're going to be using is this. So let's do it. And there we are. See, now his suit pops just a bit more. So the next thing we're actually going to do the same thing to the boots and gloves. But the color that we're going to be using to do that will be this. So this just helps make his suit pop a lot more. So that's pretty much it for him. Now the next thing really to do is to paint this beautiful head. And the first thing we're gonna do, we're actually gonna be putting a wash kind of all over his brain and a little bit in where his skull is. And we're just gonna be thinning this down. So let's do it. And there it is with that nice purplish brain. Now the next thing to do, we're going to add some red into it, some red tints into the head. And the red we're going to be using is this. So let's do it. Now he's starting to come together. So now we're going to add a little bit of blue to him, just in some of the recesses too. And the blue we're going to be using is this. And by the way too, I am thinning it down just to make it kind of watery and stuff, so it's not like super duper strong. And I did forget to mention that the purple I did use that purple, but it ended up being a little too dark, so I switched it over to an acrylic. I switched it over to this acrylic purple, and I just painted it on and wiped it off. But I think this worked a lot better just for the coloring, you know, just what I was looking for. So yeah, so let's just add on the blue now. And there he is so far. Now he's really starting to come together. So now we need to add a little bit more depth to the actual skull part. I am going to be highlighting it too, but for this I do need the paint to actually like dry all the way, or it will just stain the other stuff. But I want to add a little bit of contrast to it. So we're going to be doing this, and we're just going to be putting it kind of like in the recesses and stuff. And yeah, so let's do it. Okay guys, look at him now. Now he's really starting to come together, all those really fun little colors. So the next thing we do, we're actually going to pick out his little ear things he has on his head, and what we're going to be using to do that is this. And then we're probably going to put this wash over it to kind of match the metal that's already been around. So let's do it. And there we are. So now we're going to pick out his eyes, and the color we're going to be using to do that will be this. And then we're going to paint his little pupils with this. So let's do it. And there we are. Now I'm gonna let that dry before I pick out the pupils. We're actually gonna highlight his face, and the color we're gonna use to do that will be this. So let's do it. That now his head has popped. All right, so now we're finally going to do the eyes and finish them up. So I'm going to be using this, and I'm going to be adding this for the pupil. So let's do it. And there we are. Because the way I did his eyes at an angle like that because the way he sits on his base, he's kind of looking down. So just to make him look a little bit more menacing, he'll be like that. He's looking over with his little bloodshot eyes. So yeah. Now the next thing to do, we're gonna paint his teeth. And the color we're going to be using for that will be this. So let's do it. Look at that. pretty happy with the way he has come out. Now the next thing we're going to add a little bit of green to those little dangly bits on his cheek. And the green we're going to be using is this. So let's do it. Alrighty, so that is it for the head. Very happy with it. Now the next thing to do is I'm just going to glue it on to his body. Yeah, and then we're going to put some gloss over those eyes, make them nice and glossy, and probably over his brain too, just to make it look nice and wet. So let's do that. And the gloss that I am going to be using is this. Picked it up at Hobby Lobby. Very cheap, only $5, or I guess $6 with tax. This stuff works great. Very good gloss coat. So yeah, let's glue them together and put the gloss on them. Okay, now we have all of that nice wet looking brain and the moist eyes and teeth. Look at that. Very happy with how this Martian turned out. Love the color scheme. This is probably my favorite color scheme for the Martian, just like how they all interact with each other. I've already went ahead and gave him that nice glow effect. So really the last thing to do is just to put him together. So next time you see him, he'll be completely assembled. Okay guys, so that is pretty much it for this video. Had a lot of fun painting up this Martian. The light post, that's just black. I mean, that's not that interesting to see. Really the interesting thing was to see to be painted were the guy and the Martian. I just went ahead and airbrushed that nice glowing green on him, make it look like he just got zapped. And I do recall, I think it's either they turn green and red, but I like the green. I think it's more fun, you know, it makes it look more toony. But yeah, look at that menacing looking Martian. Very happy with how he turned out. If you guys would like to see me do or make something else, please let me know. I really enjoy making these videos. But without further ado, like and subscribe only if you want to. I don't care if you do. I'm just happy you guys are watching my video. But on to the montage.